Good morning. Thank you for joining Coimbi on our morning conversation on the societal norms that might affect women and girls in rural Kenya. My name is Lisa Connell. I'm the Director of Development and Communications for Coimbi International. Before we begin, I'd like to just take a moment to tell you a little bit about Coimbi. Coimbi is a Swahili word which means ripple or small wave. We believe that as you foster a child's education, that child is able to build a better life for themselves, their family, community, and country, like a ripple moving across a pond. We see a world where all people are empowered through education to enrich their lives and reach their fullest potential. To achieve this vision, our mission is to partner with underserved communities to create educational opportunities through locally run libraries and community learning centers. Our goals of improved educational achievement, vocational readiness, and enhanced cultural awareness are addressed through programs provided at the Coimbi Library and Community Learning Center and through other online and traditional knowledge resources. In 2012, we began implementing our programs with educational camps, and in 2013 established a physical presence in Amagoro, Busia County, Kenya, in a rundown building made available by the Busia County government. We refurbished the building and immediately started the Coimbi Library and Community Center. It is the first free public library in the county and has become a hub for the community members and is accessed by anywhere from 200 to 500 people every day. The library provides the entire local community with books, periodicals, access to the internet, reliable electricity in an area where that is not common, clean drinking water, a cultural history museum, and a fine art museum. We run our Prep for Success program at 3 focus schools, providing educational support for over 220 grade 8 students who are learning the skills they need to help them pass a mandatory national exam that serves as a gateway, determining their path to secondary education and beyond. This program includes a daily lunch, keeping the children at school for their afternoon lessons. We have vocational programs in tailoring and carpentry for those less academically inclined. Through various collaborative arrangements, we are able to extend our reach to the students at 76 schools, providing them with access to the resources available at the main library and our 4 satellite libraries, bringing books closer to school children who live too far from our main library to access that facility. Thank you again for joining us today. We apologize for running late. We had some technical difficulties, but we sorted it all out and we are all here. So I would like to introduce our panelists today. I will begin with Kathy Malala, the General Manager of Coimbi in Kenya. Her goal and the focus in her work with Coimbi Kenya is training and guiding young people there to build and grow a sustainable community-focused organization. Her hope is to instill a spirit of volunteerism and of giving of oneself and of all their talents for the benefit of the community. In doing so, she hopes to guide these children to a realization that by supporting their community, they will find lasting happiness. Next, I'd like to introduce Sharon Oradu. Sharon completed primary school education in Amagoro. She received the Zawadi Africa Educational Fund Scholarship, which gave her an opportunity to study in the US. She's a trained scientist and has worked primarily in the semiconductor industry and currently is a corporate leader at Integris. She is a trustee of Coimbi International. Next, I'd like to introduce Ife Osaga Ondando. Ife has a background in law and international development. She currently works at Google, but has previously worked at Innovations for Poverty Action, the International Finance Corporation, World Bank Group, UNHCR, and Oxfam America. Ife's professional and personal experiences have enabled her to appreciate the importance of education in transforming the lives of people. Having been born and raised in Kenya, she has seen firsthand how education creates opportunity for individuals and the community. And finally, I would like to introduce Winrose Makoka. She is an alumni of St. Thomas Amagoro Girls' School located in Amagoro, where the Quimby Library is. She participated in Coimbi's Women of Substance program when she was in secondary school. She participated in Coimbi's English Access program and was a beneficiary of library programs with e-readers and other cultural programs. She is a recent graduate of Kenyatta University. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us today. And to begin our conversation, I'd like to ask, what is life like in a village like Amagoro in terms of education and opportunity for women?
In Amagoro, life is in a rural life. Amagoro is a border town located near the Kenya-Uganda border. We are 10 minutes away from the Kenya-Uganda border. I'm speaking from Amagoro right now. And life for women here is difficult. It's difficult in many ways, challenging, but also has a lot of opportunities lately. The main challenges to education for the women has been education. It has been early marriages. And because there's no big industry here, mostly they're subsistent farmers, then paying school fees becomes a choice between will they pay for the girl or will they pay for the boy? And so most of the time they pay for the boy. And what we have seen lately is that the country as a whole is putting emphasis on the girl-child education, and that has benefited us. Kiwimbi also came up with an intervention when we realized that the girls were not coming back after their lunch break. They wouldn't come back, which means they only received about 50%, or most of the girls, about 50% of the same time, of the same education that the boys did. So that could have been one of the reasons why they didn't qualify to go to higher education, or they got demoralized and dropped out. The dropout rate has dropped all over the country, particularly here too. And so that is what life is like for them. So most women will sell their whatever they have farmed in the markets. And so they live day to day. They have to go and collect water. There is no available water. At the library, we do give free water so the children can at least drink water. They carry in small bottles, 1 liter or less, all day long. So we provide that. So water is a problem. So half the morning of the lady might be taken up looking for water. The other time they're looking to find the food which they shall cook. We also have drought situations like what we're going through right now. So when we have a drought situation, then the plants don't grow. So it can be quite challenging because of that. But all in all, things are looking up in Kenya and in Amagoro for them.
Thank you, Kathy. And I heard you refer to a few cultural norms that the girls' educational school fees are often not paid when a choice has to be made between a son and a daughter. And also that the children, when they go home, often, I think that you referred to the fact that the girls often don't come back for their afternoon lessons. And so just to talk a little bit more about those cultural norms, how they affect life for women and girls, how could we deal with these norms as women in this area to position for better success? Do you have thoughts, any of you, about how that might be dealt with?
Yeah, I like to add to that cultural norms and how to deal with that. I think for maybe the last 10 years or so, I would say, or several years ago, I would say, there started to be a shift on the importance of girls' education, right? And my family, my father, being an example of this, has 4 girls and 1 boy. And yet he put a lot of emphasis on educating us girls as well, and not just the boy. And I mean, he had 4 girls, so he almost had no choice. and so by doing this though, and also seeing that the girls were really doing well in school too, given the opportunity, and going ahead to not just improve their family situations, economical situations, but also thinking about the society and the community at large, and coming back and giving back into those communities. I think there've been a lot of those examples of families like mine where fathers are stepping up and saying, you know what, we're educating all the kids, including the girls. And then people are starting to see the benefit of this. And before it used to be, oh, girls will get married and they'll go elsewhere. But then you're seeing more and more girls are coming back and saying, hey, let's develop our community. And I think the more of these examples are out there, I think families are starting to see the importance of education as a whole for all their children, not just the boys. And I think as we continue into, providing more opportunities, more programming to encourage girls, and then you see that ripple effect happening in the community, we'll be able to kind of like bypass these cultural norms and see that education in general is just important for all the children. So,
yeah.
Just maybe to add on to that, I think Kathy, it's interesting you talked about an example which I have experienced and I have seen in my lifetime about the fact that boys are prioritized when he goes to school. Because I think about my father. He was a college professor. He went to university. He became a professor in university. Same with to his brother. But the girls in my father's family, his sisters never went to school. And this is something that I have seen. So it's and unfortunately, even though this was about maybe 50, 60 years ago, it prevails to date. And so therefore, we need to do something about that. And the other thing also to note is that not only do we have less girls going to school, they're not able to, they don't have the potential to succeed as much as the boys do, because like you said, they're caught up in domestic work. When you go, they'll go home and you see the boys in the corner doing homework, but the girls will be preparing dinner and things like that. And then also, you have situations of communities where, and like you mentioned this, Kathy, where early marriage is a thing, which leads to early pregnancy, which leads to high drop-off rates, again, affecting women's ability to move ahead. But the other thing that I want to focus on was also the issue of participation in decision making. You find that with the norms that we have, women are not able to participate fully in decision making in the society. They're not able to participate in leadership in the society. And actually, to be honest, few people view women as being able to, the current norms are that, they don't view women as being leaders. So even though we have rules in Kenya and laws in Kenya which have been passed in the last 10 years, which is a great development, where we have to have a third of our leaders being women, you find that implementation is a whole different story. But okay, it doesn't mean we give up. We have to keep trying. I think having the law, having laws in place that try to promote the participation of women in society, having efforts, but governmental efforts. I think the recent efforts by the government to make education free, primary school education, means that you have more people who are able to go. More girls are able to go to school. So there's that, and then you have the efforts that Kiwimbi is making. So I think that really you need to have a multi-pronged, approach. Everybody in whatever circumstances they are, try and make a difference. If you have some form of advantage and you're able to support or provide encouragement or open the door for a woman or a girl somewhere, do it. I think we all need to come together in different ways to make a difference.
And sorry, go ahead, Kathy.
I was going to say, that is one of the reasons why there's been a change. It has not been the law, it has been other women helping other women. And you see there's a vicious cycle here where educated mothers and educated women are able to educate their daughters. They're able to educate. The more educated women we have, the more exposed the girl is. You can only be as successful as what you can see mostly. And so when we get women in leadership, we get women who are seeing other girls back home not getting the education, and then they get into the leadership positions. They are into non-governmental organizations in political power. That's why we've seen a shift. It's a push by women leaders, church leaders, women church leaders, multi-pronged, like Ife said. So women helping women is one of the most powerful factors to driving the positive change.
And Ife mentioned the impact of Kawimbi as part of that in our little village there, and again, the ripple is what we hope for. And I was wondering if we could talk about perhaps what Amagoro was like before Kawimbi came and established the library and brought some educational opportunities, and what it's like now, 10 years later. Excuse me, maybe Sharon, you could speak about what it was like before. And Winrose, you were right at the beginning of Kawimbi's involvement in the community, and Kathy is still there. So we sort of have a timeline we can look at.
Yeah. So I guess starting from before Kawimbi, I was at Amagoro Primary before several years before Kawimbi came into the area, and I think that, you know, at that time in Amagoro, the pursuit of literacy, for instance, was really, the onus was on the parents, right? It was really on families being able to provide that for their kids, which wasn't always the case. So there are families who could afford these books and those who couldn't afford the books. And there were some small initiatives in I don't remember from whether it was government or it was just somebody else, on some small libraries in certain school. My school was one of them that had a little small one that I was lucky enough to manage that library. So I had all these books accessible to myself. But again, they were not being utilized as much, because I think the connection of literacy to success in your academics and just in life generally, I think that connection wasn't there. And so it was more, oh, those who can read will go read the books, right? It wasn't like, hey, I want to learn how to read, because it also impacts whether I understand the questions being asked in class, the material being shared in classroom. And so I think at that time, the days before, the years before Kawimbi, I do think that there was just a very myopic view of literacy. And so it was more like whoever can learn, would learn, and we move on. But there wasn't an emphasis in a holistic approach to literacy as I see today.
And Winrose, would you like to add what impact Kawimbi you experienced?
Yeah, I happen to be a pioneer, the first group that participated in the Women of Substance. And the program came from Kawimbi Library. And it was a good program in that the students in Amagoro Girls, the bright ones, like us, we have talked of poverty. We came from a poor background whereby our parents did know how to tell us this and this is bad. If you do this and this, you will land yourself in a problem. But with the Women of Substance program from the Kawimbi community, it helped us to learn many things associating with the girl-child life, and also the English Access program that came in helped us to improve in our communication skills. And before I came to Amagoro, where I was in Form 1, there was no such programs, and like there it was terrible. And then when I came in at Amagoro Girls, my spoken skills changed, and I can communicate fluently in English, courtesy of the Kawimbi Library. And there was also introduction of e-readers, and they helped us to improve on our computer skills. Even though there was a computer library in Amagoro Girls, most of us didn't know how to utilize them because we didn't have even a computer teacher. And since we were going to Kawimbi Library we had at time on our timetable, whereby when it reaches that time, a certain form was to run to the Kiwimbi library and have the e-readers, use them, read the books, read the novels. And then when the time was over, we had to come back to school. And that was really good for the Amagoro girls. And I think it is still there. The norm is still there. And with it, I know with the library around, girls are not idling. They are not idle as it was before, because when they are free, they can go to the library and read the books. Apart from the books, they might use the internet available to do research. Yeah, it helps. This one happens during the holidays. During the holidays, the girls are not in school, and Kiwimbi can only reach them when they are in school. But because of the availability of the library, which is open all through, they are able to go there over the holidays and utilize the resources available. And I think it has really helped the community around. And yeah.
Kathy, do you have something to add as we continue the timeline of Kiwimbi's impact? I think you're on mute.
Okay, I remember when we first started the library and we had to sensitize the community about who we were and what we needed. We would go to schools because we are serving about 70 schools, which means that most of them is lending them books. And we would go to schools because the government at that time, the Kenyan government, had not started the book program. So we would go to a school where they don't even have one single dictionary, and some of the classes would have so many students learning biology, but they only have but a few texts of biology. So you'll have 60 students in one class and you have one text. So we had to show them that our books, which were not were biology books, but a lot of them had been donations from the United States. We had to show them biology is biology, and then we would lend them about 40 copies of the same book. So the teachers would teach with our books. And that was a big breakthrough. And we would reach schools where cars can't go. There are still schools where the roads are too bad for a car to go. And we would go by motorcycle to take those books there. And then the most phenomenal thing is, after 30 days, they will come back again and they will re-up the same books because they're using them as their textbook for school, for learning. And they would find their way back to the library. And in there came our lending system, where we have been able to let them know that you can read just more than just textbooks. You can have fiction. Reading is pleasure. It's not just so that you can pass an exam. And that was a very big deal for us. Now today we see the children coming in and the young people coming in. If they were 10 at that time, they're 20 now, and they are coming in to borrow books and reading for the sake of pleasure. We also have pleasure. So the reading culture has been really enhanced. And we also, like they say, we also have internet, and we have a safe facility where there is lighting because we have solar power. There is lighting outside of the library. So there's a safe hub. We are like the mall. We are like the video occasion in Amagoro, because the young people can come and have a good time reading, meeting each other. We're a social place as well as an academic place. So that's been a big impact.
And would you say that, just to open this up to anybody, when you talk about bringing the changes that came with educational opportunities and bringing it back to cultural norms, was there resistance in the community from any community members to the changes that might be coming as opportunities for women, and how that might be not welcome at some times?
There was some resistance from when they didn't understand, especially with the Women of Substance program, which was for the girls. There was some sex education in there, and we had to explain that we are not teaching contraceptive. we are teaching life skills that they needed to know. And once they understood and they sat in the classes and they understood what it is that we were doing, then it was all gravy after that. It was really easy. The resistance was because of what they thought we were going to teach, but when they came, they actually helped us out.
And also I think there was resistance even from the school itself, because teachers were thinking that we went there to waste time. Some teachers thought that us going to Kiwimbi Library, leaving the school during the teaching hours, was just wasting our time. What they didn't know was that it was good for us. But I know by now they have learned and they have adopted it.
Is there anything else anybody wanted to add about the cultural norms and how that's presented a struggle, and how that is moving towards a change?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about a few more. I know we've talked about, the access to education. I also, say the other thing we talk about that is important is really economic empowerment. Okay, I think economic empowerment is very, very important. And for the cultural norms that we've had are mean that men are prioritized, and even economically, you find that women are disenfranchised in various ways. For example, until recently, women couldn't inherit land. Okay, so even if your father had lots of property, and in the end, he wouldn't. The cultural norms would prevent him from giving you the land. Now, there's been a change in the law. There was a change in the law in the early 90s, but still to date, you find that it's very, very difficult for women to participate in land inheritance, in being able to economically empower themselves. I have friends, my age, who are still trying to talk to their parents about, yes, we are girls, but we are also entitled to participate in this. And not only in land inheritance do you see that. Also jobs. For a long time, the women were viewed as just they are the ones who are homemakers, and whatever jobs they would do would be released to homemaking. So in Kenya, the common thing was that women were unexpected to be teachers and nurses. I remember at one point there was a young man who wanted us to get married, and I was in law school, and his father said to him, "But she's a lawyer. I think you should try to marry a teacher or a nurse. A lawyer may be problematic." So there's that feeling that that's not the right profession for women to be in. So I think that there are norms, and things have gotten better. And Sharon is an example. There's definitely it's great to see many women in STEM, in science. Sharon is an example of a success story of somebody who's gone into an area that for a long time women did not venture into. So I think we want to see more women venturing into these areas. Being able to make sure they are economically empowered, because the truth of the matter is that once you have women economically empowered, the evidence shows that it is good for the whole community. So that's definitely something that I think is important. And also ensuring that we have more women who are venturing into new fields and finding more ways to contribute to the community.
Any other thoughts?
I think exposure will also help in such a way that when I was in St. Thomas Amagro Girls, there were trips that were organized by Kiwimbi and Madam Kathy, and I think it was under English Access Program. We went to Kisumu, we went to Nairobi. There I met the Nairobi Muslim Academy group, the children from Mombasa, and we interacted and we were able to learn from each other. And there were also girls from other schools, and I knew that I'm not alone in this country just because of the English Access Program, the exposure that I had from it. So I knew that there are other girls who are working also to become the best in Kenya. So that one gave me it gave me an impact to learn more And when I came back to St. Thomas Amagoro, I happened to be the first girl to score a B+, and I happened to be the first one to go to the university from St. Thomas Amagoro Girls, and I scored a B+, and then I happened to be the best girl, I think, in the sub-county, Teso sub-county. The best one was Brian, and he happened to also have been in English Access program with an A-, and I became the best girl in Teso from English Access program. So I think the exposure also helped us a lot. So let's expose those kids from Amagoro area around, and it will help them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just adding to what Windrose has said, and especially, I mean, Windrose is another great example of a success story, right? And so I think that there could be more and more of these examples, and I think what Kiwimbi is doing in the area is providing that platform or that accessibility that will result to this. And I grew up in the area when Kiwimbi wasn't there. But the same things, the same opportunities that Kiwimbi is providing to a larger group of people, I managed to get it somewhat along the way. And that includes, of course, exposure to books early, which is something that, for us, we had a small little home library. And my mother happened to be somebody who loved to read. And she used to work in the library back in the day. I don't know if it was a volunteer role or not, but she used to work in the library when I was much younger. And she would take us into the library with her. This was not in Amagoro, it was in a different area. And I think that exposure to books early on, learning words and being able to conceptualize different statements, it's a big part of learning, knowing what, because I remember sitting in classroom when I moved to Amagoro, and there were some folks who did not know how to read effectively, and we were much older at the time. And you could see how it impacted just processing what was being taught in the classroom. And sometimes I think in Kenya, a lot of times reading disabilities are not acknowledged. They just say, oh, you're gonna repeat a classroom, right? Because you failed your exam. But the understanding is not that this person is not able to read, and that is preventing them from being able to really conceptualize what you're teaching them. And so I think what Kiwimbi is doing is providing the things that I was able to get somewhat, right, in one way or another, by just having some small exposure here and there, and being able to do that to this bigger group of kids in Amagoro. I think we're going to see a lot more Windroses in the next coming years, right? We're going to see a lot more Sharans coming up. And so I think I'm just very excited to see what is going on today. I mean, the Amagoro girls are doing a robotics thing, recently. Exposure to technology, right? Exposure to folks like me who've gone and traveled and coming back and sharing our stories and our journeys, and how to kind of have similar parts perhaps of some people, exposure to the Americans who come to visit Amagoro. It's just really good to see these things happening today, and showing our folks, our girls in Amagoro, that it's possible, anything is possible. And then I think having these examples is really making those aspirations tangible. And I like that. I like the fact that it's giving us like tangibility, or what I call personification of possibilities, right? By bringing these experiences back to Amagoro. So it's very exciting times in Amagoro with Kiwimbi in place.
Yeah. I just had a question for Kathy, because I know you've been involved in the program from the very beginning. I'm just curious to find out, when you think about, the number of girls participating, have you seen any increase? Have you seen a change in how they engage? Just curious to hear what your experience has been over the whole, the number of years that you've been there, comparing from the very beginning and where we are today.
Oh, yes, I've seen a major increase. It's like night and day. Before, when you would call for girls, or you would ask for girls to come to the library, it was an anomaly. Now it's 50-50. The same way they are in the population in the community is the same way they are at the library. The other thing I have seen is that the girls are more talkative. It takes a very short time for the girls to learn it's safe to speak. It's okay, you can speak. And the other thing we have to say is that the boys have learned that they have to share their space. And that has been unusual. Even at the library, we have had to, with our staff, we have had to see, we have seen a change. In the beginning, you would say, the girls will not clean, we will all clean, and our mother Kibimbi. And the boys will be like, we don't clean. They don't say it, but you can see that they're sitting back. Today, it's very different. The girls are owning their space, and they are fighting for their space in a gentle way, but they're right there, they're represented. So there's been a shift with both sexes, one realizing they have to share their space, and the other one realizing I have to take my space. So I've seen that. And the main thing is little girls, they don't know they're not supposed to be anywhere. When they're little, they own their space. And as they're getting older is when people tell them, sit back, let the men speak. And so we've been able to see, like you can see Sharon and you can see Winrose, we've been able to see the girls who are off from home, from TESOL, being there, being people who are doing big things in the community and coming back to their own communities, and they're representing the new girl, they're showing the possibilities for them. So yeah, there's been a major shift. It's almost like it's a decade, yes, but I think in the whole country, it really looks like it's been 100 years. The change has been that absolute. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I think we'll leave it on that hopeful note of positivity for the future and put the potential for the place for women as the cultural norms in Kenya and in particular those rural areas shift and make space. So I'd like to thank you for joining very much. Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate your expertise, your firsthand experience, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Lovely seeing
Thank
you
you.
all.